You probably don't want to hear this, but your pain, your fear, your failure, your desperation, and your sadness are being used to make other people filthy rich. What am I talking about? I am talking about the scam of self-improvement.
I never knew the world could be this mad. Only vision I had of sex was calling me bad. And I never knew the world could be this cold. Only time a nigga died, he was playing the role.
Now I want to be clear. I love the concept of self-improvement, at least in its purest form. It is great. Work on yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Add tools to your tool belt so you can build better relationships and build success and bring more value to the world around you. All of that is awesome. But at the same time, the self-improvement industry has been perverted by consumerism and materialism, which is unsurprising, as the love of money is the root of all sorts of evil. And wherever there are people in need, there will always be other people looking to capitalize on them. The industry and its most predatory players exploit your vulnerabilities, take your money, and have no problem leaving you upriver without a paddle if it funds their lifestyle. It may surprise you to learn that some of the very people that you admire and aspire to publicly say that they don't even care about you or anyone else and take no accountability for anything they have ever done to get to where they are.
We were taking their money, all of it. They come and say, well, what kind of, all of it. We were fucking milking them dry.
Feel bad or no?
Fuck no. To give a solitary fuck.
If you're not ripped, if you're not rich, if you ain't rare, if you don't stand out, if you ain't across the board successful, it doesn't mean fucking shit to me.
The most common compliment I've ever gotten is, "You've changed my life." They were suicidal, they were depressed, they were anxious, whatever. When I get that compliment, it does nothing to me. I don't give a fuck.
You know, I always see those videos from YouTubers and TikTokers who say like, oh, you know, you guys have done this for me and I love my audience and stuff, and I've always found that gay as fuck, if I'm honest. Like, it's just cringe. It's just like, why the fuck you lying?
I sit here and I do not think I made any mistakes, but I was not scamming people any more than anyone else.
In the scam of self-improvement, there are dealers and there are addicts, because when it comes to capitalism and consumerism, there is nothing more profitable than addiction. You don't know it, but they are training you. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how the self-improvement industry can harm you, but also how to actually begin to live a good life based on practical and applicable knowledge inspired by the teachings of a little Stoicism, and also based on my own personal experiences as a 33-year-old recovering addict of self-improvement. I'm going to target my focus and examples mainly on men's self-improvement and content, because as a man, that is where my life experiences exist. But regardless, with a little critical thought, the concepts can easily apply and be relatable across the board. All right, let's start with the most apparent problem with the self-improvement industry. It is an environment full of predators. Now, I'm not saying that every influencer, self-help guru, coach, or content creator in this niche is a predator. There are absolutely people who are genuinely trying to help. But like I was saying before, when there is profit to be made, predators will appear. If there is blood in the water, the sharks will not be far behind. Enter characters like Tate, Wes Watson, and even Hamza, a few of the poster boys of the online self-improvement industry. All very different, and yet all very similar in that they know how to pick their prey very well. The thing that we must also acknowledge here before we continue is that these guys and others like them, in some cases, really have helped people change their lives and find motivation and better themselves. The truth is, it's totally possible for a complete degenerate of a human being to post workout routines that inspire thousands of other people to get into fitness and learn to love their bodies in a new way. Even a terrible person can have a positive impact at some level. So am I saying that these guys are terrible people? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know them personally, but I would say that they're is a lesser of the three evils. What I am trying to say, though, is if you are familiar with any of their content, you would know that their target audience is men with low confidence, self-worth, and income. Just like how the lions go after the weak and sickly, the stragglers and the rejects who are isolated and alone because they are the easiest prey, such men are the common target in the self-improvement space because while they do need the most help, their desperate and undesirable circumstances also make them the most susceptible to manipulation. Many self-improvement creators, knowingly or unknowingly, feed into the narrative that your life is a nightmare and then sell you a dream. They rub your face in the mud of how little you have, how average you are, and then line their pockets by selling you lottery tickets. Anyone who has any experience in sales is familiar with this tactic. It is rudimentary manipulation. All of these men have built up images of confident, masculine, controversial, successful, physically dominant playboys, real life James Bond characters that they market to you. They use heavily materialistic content and rhetoric to shame young men for not being exactly like them, which pushes them into a state of comparison, the thief of joy, and then market to you how much more joy and freedom that they have than you. So then you begin to believe that you will never be happy and free and joyful until you have what they have. You begin to believe that if you're not living like Wes or Tate or Hamza, then you're a Jeffrey, a brokey, a wagey, a slave, an NPC, that you are in the matrix and you're not even a man at all.
You're broke! You're fucking poor!
And once you start to look at yourself like that, you are primed to sign your name on the dotted line. You are just a few courses away from your freedom and happiness. Soon, you can be just like them. Maybe you too can get rich and escape the matrix by selling courses about how to get rich and escape the matrix. The problem with a lot of self-improvement is actually found in the underlying value system that you are building your house on. It's in the confirmation bias and the mindset that you are feeding into, because what you feed will grow. Becoming healthier and wealthier may be the consumer-friendly packaging, but if you look at the ingredients, you may find that you are ingesting things that are actually poisoning you long term. If you are watering the seeds of materialism and hedonism, they will eventually become your idols, and you will begin to make sacrifices to those idols. The dance with the devil has begun.
His primary concern was making $1 million, being the illest hustler that the world ever seen. He used to fuck movie stars and sniff coke in his dreams. A corrupted young mind at the age of 13.
You will begin to become brainwashed into thinking that materialistic things will bring you happiness, validate your importance, and give your existence meaning. And when a person equates happiness and satisfaction to their money, their physical appearance, or the number of women that they are banging, they become miserable. It is an empty void that cannot be filled. The other issue with predatory creators is that they mostly only sell you a vision of success without truly helping you achieve it. They don't address the unique, deep psychological and circumstantial problems that a person might have that could be hindering them from reaching their goals and finding meaning and acceptance and connection and fulfillment in life. Best case scenario, they will sell you a course to teach you some way to make money online that's probably a pyramid scheme or whatever the latest get rich quick trend for drop shipping and crypto is, or tell you that you need to do exactly what they do.
Quit your job, post on social media about fitness, and sell my program.
And then when these money-making and status-building schemes don't work out for 99% of people, they will tell you it's just because you are not grinding hard enough. And then they will tell you about some outlier short-term success story about some kid who made 10K in a month to keep you playing the lottery, which then also pushes you even deeper into the trap of comparison and self-depreciation. You start to think to yourself, it's working for other people, so maybe you are just too lazy and incapable. Maybe you really are just an undisciplined beta. You just need to grind harder. And before you know it, you are living a life of constant dissatisfaction, addicted to chasing a finish line that does not even exist. Maybe you just need to buy another course. Maybe you just need to watch more content. Maybe you just need to book a coaching call for $2,000 to have Wes Watson call you a bitch. Or maybe you need to spend $15,000 to attend a 3-day alpha male boot camp.
Most of you don't fucking belong here. And I'll be damned, I'll take this fucking knife off my fucking waist and carve this fucking tattoo off my fucking hand before that any of you fucking bitches show up here on Friday for the graduation.
Thankfully, I think that most people begin to see through that top layer of scam artistry relatively quickly, but there is a sucker born every day. If you have found yourself enjoying this video so far, make sure you hit that subscribe button, but we are not done yet, because there's an even more insidious trap within the industry of self-improvement, and that is the trap of perfectionism and optimization. And this takes hold when a person focuses on self-improvement so much that they begin to see every single facet of their life as something that is not good enough, and so must be constantly improved. Imagine the grass is greener syndrome spreading like a cancer into every nook and cranny of your existence. You will never be enough, and it will corrode you from the inside out. It doesn't help that in the modern world of social media, you are being barraged 24/7 by all the things that everyone else has more of and does better than you. All of your achievements and everything about you pales in comparison to the next person that you see. It's like an invisible scoreboard that tells you that you lose every single day. Let's say you took your kids for a walk to go play at the park. And then when you get home, you see a video of a man who works remote and can afford to fly his family all over the world. Or maybe you did your hair and your nails and you've been working out lately and you're feeling good about yourself. But then you see videos and pictures of Instagram models that your boyfriend has been double tapping on. Copy and paste that dynamic to every detail of your life and relationships. It is a slippery slope. Imagine drowning in the shallow end of the pool.
Are you not ashamed of yourself?
With the extremes that we are sold, it really does begin to feel like you only have two choices. Either embrace being average and wrestle with all the things that you are constantly being told about how you are a low-value loser and no one will want you or respect you or be loyal to you or value you if you are not a picture of perfection living a life of luxury, or spend your entire life fighting against that. So either wrestle with accepting your inadequacy or become a self-improvement and productivity junkie, hyper-fixated on materialism and success. I personally chose to do the latter. I started optimizing my life more and more and more and more. It's literally all I could think about, to the point where I started compulsively filling every moment of silence and idleness in my day with some sort of podcast or motivational video, anything to convince myself that I was being productive. I became so fixated on material and individualistic success that anytime I looked around at my life, all I could see were inadequacies and failures. I fell so deep into the comparison trap, I began to pull away from all connection and relationship and friendship and play and joy and anything or anyone that couldn't get me to an immediate outcome towards improvement or at least gratification and validation. I stopped feeling like I was even present anymore. It's like I was outside of my own body, watching myself interact. Life really began to lose color. I became a shell of a man, just going through the motions, a robot, grinding it out 7 days a week, striving towards the day I could finally feel like I was enough. And only recently have I begun to think that maybe that day does not even exist. And while I have gained a lot in material success over the past 5 years, I've also become more disconnected than I have ever felt before in my life. I often feel rather empty, alone, and frustrated. As I'm recording this video right now, I would say that I'm only at the starting blocks of learning how to swing the pendulum back. And I've already felt a lot of weight lift off from my shoulders. I've been allowing myself a lot more grace and patience and freedom, trying to get out of my head and stop living so far in the future that the present is lost on me. Now, if you were to ask me to pick a couple of books that I would recommend to someone who relates to this and wants to get into a healthier vein of self-improvement, I would suggest starting with some of the oldest teachings out there. There is just something about wisdom written thousands of years ago that is still applicable to humanity today that just hits different. The two titles I would recommend purchasing, or for some of you revisiting, would be The Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle and, of course, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And of course, I will leave links to both of these books in the description on this video if you are interested. In a nutshell, these dead guys teach you about the concept of flourishing. Unlike the whole money, power, and sex combo that is sold to our egos and most narcissistic carnal desires that focuses entirely on external validation, their advice and teachings are far more holistic in nature and instead focus mostly on internal validation and virtue. I think the truth that a lot of people forget about this is that in order to build higher, you must dig your foundations deeper. Everybody wants to be the tallest building in the city as fast as possible, even to the point they will cut corners. But it is only those who take the time to get their hands dirty, to dig their foundations deep into their values and build the proper infrastructure, who are willing to be consistent and patient. Those are the ones who will withstand the test of time. They will be the ones who stand tall while all of those who built their castles quickly on the sand rise and fall with the tide. When everything is stripped away, all that we truly have left is our integrity. And this is where the majority of modern self-improvement misses the mark, because a lot of it is focused on extrinsic values rather than intrinsic values, and teaches an outside-in prioritized value system instead of an inside-out prioritized value system. It's our internal virtues that are what guide us through life's challenges and help us make choices that lead us to real happiness and meaning. One of the problems with this is that we are not born with these virtues. They are developed through practice and habit and experience. Of course, both nature and nurture have their hand in it, as well, as we all inherit our genetics and our initial blueprints and frameworks for success in relationships from our parents and earliest relationships, which unfortunately means that the majority of the population is not set up for success, especially in the modern world with the current state of marriage and family and community. Most people have been thrown to the wolves. They are lost. So I am not surprised in the least when I see just how many people gravitate to the alphas and the baddies that our sick society seems to incessantly glorify and reward with all of the hedonistic pleasure and validation the world has to offer. And I don't blame anybody for wanting those things. And yet, on the contrary, we have some of these ideas from some of the most powerful and influential players in human history suggesting that focusing on intrinsic goals over extrinsic goals is what leads to a much greater sense of happiness and meaning in life. So maybe it's true that intrinsic goals are inherently fulfilling, whereas extrinsic goals are typically just a means to get more of something else. I've said it many times before, no external source fulfills an internal leak. You will find that everything is not enough. The world is not enough, James Bond. There is never enough money or cars or women or followers or fame to satisfy the void within our souls. In fact, the more that you feel that you must take, would that not ultimately only confirm your lack? There's a verse in the Bible that says, "Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you and say, 'Who is the Lord?' Or I may become poor and steal and so dishonor the name of my God." I am convinced that a big part of my drive and ambition, or more accurately, my addiction to self-improvement, has been due to a combination of a sense of inadequacy and inferiority, but also, ironically, a sense of a higher capability than the average person. I understand that that is a bit of a contradiction, but both can be true at once. It's like yin and yang, and the polarity of these forces causes a push and pull within my character. But no matter what I do, I keep coming back to the realization that no matter what I can take, it never fulfills me. It never scratches the itch to satisfy me. It has only ever been from what I can give that I have ever felt like I was enough, even just for a moment. I wrote a quote a while back. It's currently on my YouTube banner, and it says, "Maybe the true measure of a man is not found in what he takes from his kingdom to serve himself, but in what he builds within himself to serve his kingdom." The teachings of Aristotle and Marcus, and much of what you will find under the umbrella of Stoicism, place high importance on cultivating wisdom and knowledge, which you get through education and reflection and experience. But it cannot stop there. It's not enough to know, to read, to talk, to argue, to explain. All of that is ultimately hot air. They say talk is cheap. You must use what you know. Marcus Aurelius famously said, "Stop talking about what a good man is like and just be one." I wonder what he would think of the podcast era of masculinity and self-improvement. Stoicism emphasizes balancing theoretical knowledge with real-world application. You must make sure that your intellectual pursuits improve your actions instead of just being goals on their own. We live in a generation of keyboard warriors and internet intellectuals squabbling incessantly in the comment sections and spending more time watching YouTube videos about Stoicism than actually practicing Stoicism. And I say that as someone who has been there myself before. And I do feel like a little bit of a hypocrite even now as well with this, because not only do I spend a lot of time on social media as a content creator, but also because on one hand, I want to encourage you to get off of the internet, and on the other, I'd like to make a living making content that keeps you on the internet. So basically, get off the internet and go touch grass and watch more of my videos. In a nutshell, modern self-improvement often focuses on individualism and materialism, while Stoic philosophies highlight the importance of social connections for achieving meaning and fulfillment. We humans are naturally social creatures, and relationships are crucial for a fulfilling life. It is no coincidence that a lot of the messaging that seeks to capitalize and profit off of people are messages of division and individualism and disconnection. It's simple: divide and conquer. It is no coincidence that the target audiences are those who are feeling disconnected and alone and without a sense of value and meaning. It is no coincidence that one of the main contributing factors to people taking their own lives is from being rejected from connection. So yeah, maybe it can feel empowering for a moment to be told that you don't need anyone. Be alone, disappear, self-improve, secure the bag, get jacked. It's you against the world. But at the core of that is actually a need for connection and a desire to be valued by others. And if you buy into that narrative of isolation, you will begin to buy the courses and the subscriptions and consume all of the content. And when a cult leader says jump, you will say how high, because deep down you hope that if you can become this elusive best version of yourself, you'll finally find your place in the world and find the love and connection and acceptance and validation that you are missing. So my question to you is, how hard have you tried to become involved in an offline community? How much effort have you put into finding ways to contribute to civic life and help other people solve problems in their lives? Because being active in society not only boosts your personal happiness, it helps improve your community. It helps you feel like you have a valuable impact, that you have something to offer. And it also counters the loneliness that can come from being too focused on yourself. Which brings us to the crossroads that I am at personally, because I have numbed and disconnected myself for the past few years with the productivity and validation and pseudo connection of becoming successful and building social media platforms. And well, that has become an awesome way for me to share my passions and thoughts and help others. I even have the potential of building a career doing it. I've also been neglecting reality and connection and relationship, and time feels like it has been passing by faster than ever. And that's no coincidence either. It's pretty wild to think about how contrasting this ancient wisdom is in comparison to the often exploitative and superficial nature of so much self-improvement content out there today.
Victory is mine, yeah, surprisingly. I've been lame, waiting for your next mistake. I put in work and watch my status escalate.
And I think that's the message that is unhealthy out there, is where people that have influence, people that have done quite well for themselves, somehow allow younger people to believe that that means you're better than somebody else.